approval of the agenda. We have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have a second? We got a
Yes, I'll
second?
second
Okay, we
Peter's
have a
motion.
second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Then the March minutes, everybody's had a chance to read those?
It was superb.
What's that?
It was superb.
Yes.
There was one change I had. It was we recognized, Stewart, and it was written as Mr. Stuart Glassman and not Dr. Stuart Glassman. So if we could make that one change.
Got that, Alex?
Thank you. And we have a,
Technicality or?
I just didn't want anybody to get there. I don't know. He was a great surgeon,
Yes. It's already done.
so. Okay, do we have a motion
To approve the minutes.
from the March meeting by Peter?
Incorrect.
And I said,
With the one correction, Barbara has seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have minutes from March approved. There's no old business. On new business, the first item is a standard rezoning, Stanwood Lane. Here comes Yolanda. So now we have 6
Too many.
out of 8.
Okay, members on the board, or, no.
4 would not be a quorum now. Right, 5 does it, yeah. Hey, Yolanda. We're just getting into the first item.
Yes, this is a standard rezoning for, correct. For a property, located at 1208 Stanwood Lane, is 1.8 acres, is currently zoned, R15, and they're proposing to rezone it to R10. It is located in the ETJ. It's in the southwestern portion of the city of Hendersonville zoning jurisdiction. It has been in the ETJ since it was initially established in 1975. The R15 zoning district that the subject property is in is the predominant zoning district in this entire western side of the city's zoning jurisdiction. Stretches from Canoga Road to the south, up north beyond Stony Mountain Road, near Asheville Highway. Other zoning districts proximate to the subject property include R40, which is on the south eastern side of Canoga Road, which is a very low density residential, just 0.1 miles from the subject property. And then there's R20, which is 0.2 miles further east from the subject property. There are multiple instances of site-specific uses, non-conforming uses, and exempt uses in the vicinity of the subject property. To the west of the subject property is the mobile home park with a density of 8.7 units per acre. See that right here. To the north is the Saddlebrook community area here. It is a planned unit development, or a PUD, with a density of 5 units per acre. Additionally, there's a paint and body shop on the southeast side of the subject property, and some agriculturally oriented commercial activity is concentrated around the intersection of Canoga Road and State Street, the Johnson Family Farm area here. This is a bona fide farm. It's zoned R40, but as a bona fide farm, it is exempt from city zoning due to its location in the ETJ, and that's per state statute. Taking a look at the comparisons between the two districts, the uses within each district are essentially the same. The R10 does not permit cemeteries as a special use, whereas the R15 does. The main differences lie within the dimensional standards. The R10 district has a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet versus a 15,000 square foot minimum lot size. How that impacts or how that is applied to duplexes is also a slight difference, with only 5,000 square feet needed, additional square feet needed for a duplex in the R10 and 7,500. The 7,500 is needed in the R15. The setbacks are slightly different as well, and the R10 has smaller setbacks and less strict standards in terms of setbacks. The height is the same. Taking a look at the site, upper left photo is standing at the site, looking at Stanwood, looking towards State Street. The site is on the right. In the upper right picture, this is standing kind of central on the site, looking east towards neighboring land uses. The bottom left picture is central to the site, looking south towards Drake Street, and in the far background is agricultural field. The bottom right is standing at the center of the site, looking west at a damaged structure in the foreground, but in the background is the mobile home park that's adjacent to the subject property. Upper left is looking, you can see Drake Street in the background and some of the mobile home park in the far background. Upper right is standing on Drake Street, looking towards the mobile home park. Bottom left is Drake Street, looking across the area that's in the 100-year floodplain. And then the bottom right is at the very edge of the southern boundary of the property, looking at the agricultural field. And I caught an action shot with the John Deere going by. Sorry. Taking a look at the future land use map, the comprehensive plan designates this entire southwestern quadrant of the planning area and includes the subject property. All of that is designated as medium intensity neighborhood. The 100-year floodplain in the southern portion of the subject property, as well as other low-lying areas along Shepherd Creek and the Mud Creek floodplains, are designated as natural resource and agricultural. Portions of the land south of Canoga Road are designated as low intensity neighborhood. So looking further into comprehensive plan consistency, which is the first criteria we consider in a rezoning. In this case, the future land use designation is split between high intensity neighborhood, which is found on the it is split between medium intensity neighborhood and natural resource and agriculture. The proposed density for medium intensity, which is the developable portion of the site, the recommended development guidelines from the comprehensive plan recommend 2 to 8 units per acre. Under R10, it would permit 5.5 units per acre as a minor planned residential development, which is really the maximum amount of density that could be put on the property. So it fits within that range. It is relatively consistent with the medium intensity neighborhood because there are not design guidelines in any of our districts, and by state law, single family and 2-family developments, you cannot apply design standards to those. The other development guidelines associated with the medium intensity neighborhood would not be consistent with R10. And the natural resource agricultural area, because there's not a development proposal, and considering the limitations within our zoning code and the floodplain ordinance, we can surmise that any development that is proposed for the site would be very limited in the floodplain. The growth management designation is preservation and enhancement area. The goal LU1 of the land use and development chapter states to encourage infill development that utilizes existing infrastructure in order to maximize public investment and revitalize existing neighborhoods. Goal LU-2 states to discourage development in areas needed for protection of natural and agricultural resources and protection of citizens from natural hazards. Population and housing chapter goes on to encourage variation in lot sizes and housing types within new developments, encourage mixed-use land use patterns that place residents within walking distance of services. The natural and environmental resources chapter has a goal to preserve environmentally sensitive areas, And it goes on to list out a number of strategies related to that, discouraging and reducing development and impervious surfaces within the floodplain, protect land adjacent to streams, encourage restoration of natural habitat and drainage patterns, continually assess development and preservation efforts within the areas designated as natural resource and agriculture. It also has goal in R-2, provide a variety of quality open space and has a strategy to encourage cluster development that preserves open space while allowing a return on investment. Acquire environmentally sensitive properties, promote the preservation of woodlands, promote the location and design of open space, and enable and encourage low impact development practices and stormwater management. Those are somewhat abbreviated versions of those strategies. The cultural and historic resources chapter nor the community facilities chapter had goals, relevant goals, strategies or actions. The water resources chapter states to prevent development of floodplains and stream corridors in order to preserve natural drainage patterns and improve the quality of stormwater runoff. The transportation and circulation chapter calls for encouraging pedestrian connections between dead-end streets and adjacent neighborhoods, preserve and expand the public greenway system as a core component of the bicycle and pedestrian transportation system. So that is comprehensive plan consistency. Now we move on to compatibility. This one is it's got some lengthy descriptions there, which I've covered primarily up to this point. Talked about the zoning in the area, its proximity to other zoning districts, the instances of the site-specific non-conforming uses and exempt uses. So it is not, there is a mix of densities and a mix of land uses, despite the R-15 zoning being very prevalent in the area. The third criteria is change conditions. In this case, we talked about this a little bit in our committee meeting, that the zoning on the map and what has occurred it relates back to some changes that were, or the zoning code that was in place in the early 90s, and some changes that occurred in this case specifically for R-15 zoning in 1996. So in 1990, the Saddlebrook neighborhood, which was mentioned, was approved as a special use permit. So that was a site-specific approval. It has a higher density than what is currently permitted within R-15. At the time, it met the zoning code standards for density. The zoning code was modified to reduce the allowable density within R-15, and the uses. It actually used to permit multifamily and single-family attached uses. Now it is two-family and single-family zoning district. Those are the primary changes and conditions. We also talk about the broader conditions that's changed related to housing supply and the need for affordable housing. The next criteria is public interest. In this case, there would be a slight uptick in the number of housing stock that could be permitted on this site. Public facilities, there is water and sewer in the area. This applicant had requested a availability request. I believe that request is timed out. It would need to be resubmitted. Stanwood is a local street that is an NCDOT street. If annexed, if approved, it would receive all city services in the area. City limits is just adjacent to the north, and so impacts of police and fire may be slightly different in extending services to that area, but in terms of sanitation, we received word that it would not be a major disruption to their services if this were to be brought into the city. And last, the effect on natural environment. I did note that there was been some clearing on the property. Previous aerial photography of the site shows that it was wooded, appeared to have a tree canopy that it currently does not. We did field verify that there is not a blue line stream. The USGS map shows a blue line stream cutting diagonally across the property. Worked with the stormwater administrator to verify that that stream was redirected and entirely contained on the neighboring mobile home park site. And so the stream buffer protection standards would not apply if this were to be developed. The floodplain the floodplain ordinance and the zoning code ordinance related to the floodplain protection would apply on the portion that about a half acre that's at the just south of Drake Street. So that would, those are considerations related to the effect on the natural environment. Staff has put together a draft comprehensive plan consistency statement. As shown on the screen, the medium intensity neighborhood designation calls for attached and detached single-family residential uses. Primary land uses and development guidelines recommend densities at a rate of 2 to 8 units per acre. The R10 medium density residential zoning district permits single-family and two-family uses at a maximum of 5.5 units per acre. And then there's some rationale for approval, which is shown on the screen. And there's also some rationale for denial. I'll just briefly mention that an analysis of spot zoning was performed by staff and reviewed by the city attorney. In short, it would, technically meet the definition of spot zoning for the reasons listed number 1 and 2 on the screen. But would that zoning be invalidated by a court? It's considered it would be unlikely that would be invalidated due to the criteria that's listed on the screen and the criteria that really has been covered throughout this presentation. So wanted to touch on that because it is R10 in an area completely surrounded by R15. So wanted to make note of that. And so with that, I will open it up for any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for city staff?
Wait a minute.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Huh? I know. Stop it, Peter. Let me see. Here's my. Now I'm gonna single family. The promote the walkable neighborhood. There's nothing walkable in that neighborhood to date. They wouldn't, oh, well, we can't ask. Sorry about that.
Well, you're gonna ask about sidewalks in front of the, if it gets developed. You're gonna ask about sidewalks if it gets developed?
Yeah.
Yeah. We would have to do some analysis. Right now, you have to be within a half mile of a public building, particular public buildings, not all government buildings, a park, trail, library, school, things of that nature. So we'd have to analyze. I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head if you can think of anything really close by?
No, there's nothing.
So they may be exempt from doing sidewalks on any development out there. So it'd be up to NCDOT.
Yeah, because I don't even think they could get to major subdivision and trigger it via subdivision ordinance, like an infrastructure requirement from that end. If they had to do a public street,
Would have to be.
and that would only be within the
They couldn't
development.
get there. Well,
It
it'd
could
be
be-
close. I think 9.
9 is the major subdivision. I don't,
They're
like,
real
bottom
close to
line
that.
is it's unlikely that the parcel is large enough and or close enough to any existing infrastructure that it would require sidewalks. There are triggers for doing so. But it's probably unlikely that this parcel as a standalone parcel would trigger that.
And if this, if the zoning changes and this becomes developed, do they bring the site plan back to you.
Yes, they would. And if they're, because multifamily is not permitted, it would be essentially, if there's multiple units,
Right.
then it would involve a subdivision as well. And under a minor PRD, it would go from the max allowable under R15 is 6 units. And it would bump up to 9 units under, let me just verify,
It was like 6.
under R10 would be not, yeah, very close to 10 units,
6.75,
but 9.9 is,
9.9.
so depending on.
So do you
maybe a
round up or round down? Would it go from
Down.
7 to 10 or from 6 to 9? Go from
Six to 9. And because it's so close to 10, it would really take a survey, I think, to get a very accurate reading of what the actual acreage is of the site to determine,
Mhm.
since it's units per acre, we'd have to know the exact acreage.
Can we go back to the slide that showed the aerial with the hash lines on, there were yellow hash lines on the property, yeah, okay. So really what we're talking about is the kind of amber or orange property that's underneath the yellow hash lines, because the green underneath the yellow hash lines is in the floodplain. And it could not be developed, correct?
It would be limited, so they could not,
They could fill in.
this has not been
10% of it?
developed before, so this would be new development. So they would be limited to developing only 10% of the floodplain. And that would not really leave enough to do anything with because of the size of the floodplain. So if you had a very large floodplain and you could develop 10% of it, you might could do something with that 10%.
Mhm.
On a smaller parcel like this.
So we're talking about the difference.
So yes, in theory, yes.
By
be
right, they
limited.
could put 6 units on the upper portion. By right, with a change, they could put 9.
That's correct.
Okay.
And Drake Street provides access to the mobile home park, so any type of street closure, I would, making some assumptions would be not be permitted
Any other questions?
or approved. Yeah.
Jim, I
So-
think that comes to less than an acre. The one section.
Yeah, it's a half an acre about, isn't
It's
it?
one parcel.
It's one
Drake Street
parcel,
actually-
so-
I mean, it's one parcel.
but it's,
In our eyes, the buildable part.
right,
Okay.
it's 1.3.
1.3.
1.3. Yeah, so you've got 1.3 above and half an acre down below.
You can count the entire parcel
Right.
towards your allowable density. That's in our floodplain or our floodplain standards, floodplain protection standards of the zoning ordinance allow for that.
Is Drake Street a private road? Is it a public road? Do we know?
I
Said it was, North Carolina.
would assume it's an NCDOT right of way. I don't recall offhand.
We know how many, units are in that mobile home.
8.7 per
park.
acre. 8.7 per acre. And that looks to be what, about 2 acres? So there's probably 16, 17 in there?
Sounds about right. 14, 15.
Any other questions for staff?
No.
All right, is the applicant in the room? The applicant here? Okay. What about on the Zoom call? The applicant on the Zoom call, do we know? They are not. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on then to public comments. We're going to open up the public comment portion of the rezoning. If anybody in the room would like to speak, come on up, give us your name and your address and tell us what you're thinking. Come on up, Michael. Sure, that's great. Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, you came prepared. I like it.
Set it down on the floor.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, if you put them in front of, that's, yeah, that's better, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
My comment will be as technical. My name is Joyce Naviglia. Did you need my address, you said?
Please.
Oh, I'm at 412 North Lakeside Drive in Hendersonville. Excuse me. I am commenting today to bring attention to the potential effects of the rezoning the land at Stanwood Lane, and to prevent the new home buyers from the heartache and nightmare I am living. The 1.8 acres of land, which has already been cleared with no grading permit and having its lower section already deemed to be in the 100-year floodplain, to me would be reckless. The 100-year floodplain, also known as flood zone AE, is generally the zone where flood risks are very high. Properties in these AE zones will be required by the federal government to get flood insurance, along with flood insurance policy in the mortgage. My home is not designated as a floodplain yet, as FEMA mappings were last done in September 1981 for the unincorporated areas of Henderson County. I bought my home in August 22 in Murphy's residential development. The lot is 1.18 acres with 4 homes on Lakeside Drive. In August of 2021, Tropical Storm Fred caused the entire 1.1 acres of my development to flood. The flood waters rose as high as my foundation and to the grades of my crawl space. I was unaware of the recent flood event until I actually saw photos. Needless to say, I was horrified and certainly would not have purchased the home. Since then, I have been consumed with correcting the malfunctions of the soil stability and the drainage, in addition to the defective grading on the entire property. The zoning department should have been responsive to repeated inquiries as to why the property was being developed when neighbors had let them know it had flooded. I have since become aware that land with 1 acre or greater needs a grading permit, but I was told that the grading permit is only needed if the entire property is disturbed at the time of the site visit. And I was told disturbed meaning it was completely cleared. A builder can get away with not getting a permit by having some weeds and branches, which is considered to be undisturbed on some of the 1 acre. In my situation, the entire 1.1 acre development was cleared at the same time, not as individual 1/4 acre sites, and no permit was issued. I've spent countless hours seeking answers as to how my development that flooded in 2021 was permitted and built. My property is like living in a swamp. Somehow, with all the city, county, and ETJ ordinances and codes, I have to worry every time it rains. The future homeowners at the Stanwood Lane development may not fully recognize the implications or importance of the land their new home will be built on. With not having a grading permit and leaving the grading up to the builder as he pleases. The fact that the land at Stanwood Lane lies partially in a floodplain and not having the necessary grading permit for reasonable oversight to limit drainage and flooding, I am requesting the city to reject the rezoning request. Thank you.
Okay, if you could just, on the map, could you tell us where your house is?
It's not on
It's over here. It's near Osceola.
Oh, it's over near Osceola? Okay, okay. I see.
Here's Johnson County Farm.
Right.
There's the lake.
It's west of here, so
Gotcha. Okay, so it's up State Street and out Willow and then back in by
Yeah.
Osceola.
it'd be
Mhm.
just
On
off.
that same creek though, yeah, it's on that same creek.
There is a tributary of Shepherd Creek. This is Shepherd Creek flowing through here.
Goes underneath Canoga right there at the farm, yeah.
The location, the creek that runs adjacent or through her property on North Lakeside is a tributary that feeds into Shepherd Creek, and it adjoins just after Osceola Lake, after the dam.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry for what you're going through. This board really has nothing to do with grading permits, but. Right. Right. Thank you. Anybody else? Michael, come on up. Give us your.
Drake Street. My name is Michael Redden. Okay. My biggest concern is going to be the traffic. We already have an ungodly amount of traffic from the produce stand. It's hard to get in and out of. I know there's still going to be the entrance off of State Street. And then we've got the Acoustic Trail coming, which is going to bring an awful lot of traffic. There's already construction underway inside the city limits on Canoga. And then they're building more houses up at work from after Canoga turns into Crab Creek Road. There is also that 100-year floodplain at 450, I think it's 415 Drake Street. And it's really not feasible to put a lot of units on that property at all. I mean, the traffic is terrible. I mean, my family has resided there since 1986. And it's not, I just don't feel that it's a feasible decision to be able to rezone to put a lot of houses there.
Thank you. Where are you at? You're on Drake Street?
This, one lot over this way, on Drake Street, right there.
Okay.
I mean, my lot's 0.44 acres,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's,
So when you go to pull out onto Canoga, you've got traffic backing up from the light?
yeah, I got
Oh,
the
yeah.
traffic at the produce stand is right there. I mean, the produce stand is right there
Mhm.
at Drake Street. That should have never been allowed to be put there for traffic wise. And I mean, there's tons of wrecks and fatalities already on Canoga Road. I mean, Canoga Road is not tolerable to, to support a whole lot more traffic. I mean, they put off the redoing the road till 2040. That's a long time. I mean, I've had cousins killed on Canoga and everything else because of, traffic.
Right.
It's just not a feasible choice.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room would like to speak? Come on up. Give us your name and address.
Jennifer Ray, R-A-Y. My address is 1033 Saddlebrook Drive. So I live in the Saddlebrook division. And first, is Saddlebrook Drive the first street into the city from Canoga?
I think it was all annexed
Ye-
because it was
Yes,
put on sewer.
it is.
Yeah.
The red line on the map above
Okay.
shows the city boundary.
So
The
we're
corporate
actually the
limits.
first, okay, I was just curious about that. My only concern along with the traffic and the other things, was why would the person who purchased this want to rezone knowing what it was zoned for originally? Because you just bought this 2 years ago, is my concern. We certainly don't have the room on State Street for the traffic. We went through this ordeal last year with them wanting to put the car wash down there on the left. So there just doesn't seem to be a good thoroughfare to let the amount of traffic come through that would need to be going through there. And I guess what Michael was talking about, Drake Street would not be an entrance for this at all. Is that my understanding?
I don't know.
It would all be from Stanwood.
There's no proposed development, so There's no,
It's just a request for rezoning. There's no site plan.
So he is at, there's no statement of purpose or intent or anything that's been. given.
And really, we just have to consider all the uses within the new zoning district
Right, okay,
on a rezoning.
okay, that was it, that was.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the room would like to speak? It would go from 6 to 9,
And that's the only tangible difference, correct?
other than cemetery.
Yeah,
And
I'm,
a few-
I'm
a few-
assuming no cemetery.
a few
I
feet-
may be
A
wrong.
few feet on setback. There's
Right.
5-foot differences on setbacks. What about on the Zoom call? Do we have anybody on the Zoom call that wants to speak?
We have one.
Raise your hand, use the raise your hand feature and we'll.
You can go ahead.
Ken Fitch, 1046 Patton Street. Regarding the two-family use, would that be regarded as one unit or 2 units? Because the issue here is going to be traffic. People have raised this issue about traffic. And we've heard this with many of the projects in this area about accidents and problems on State Street and Canoga Road, that if you're adding the amount of traffic that you add in this area can be a real problem. I've been on that road and people speed and it can be dangerous even with the amount of residences there now. But if you're adding to that, that is a real issue when we've heard that in project after project in this area. So that is because the Drake Street is also an issue here because who is responsible for the maintenance of that road? I mean, it's hard to think that that would not be used as a point of access to any development, being it's there. And I think that would be that's a major thing to think about, because you're going to have traffic would be on that road, and like what jurisdiction would control that? That is a big problem. The other thing is we're talking about 100-year floodplain. And as we've been learning recently, that we are increasingly exceeding 100-year flood events. And that is something that we need to be aware of. And as the previous speaker spoke, that the FEMA maps are out of date and need to be revised. So we're going into a territory which may be really very problematic in this area in terms of if the floods exceed the current area, what does that do to Drake Street and that whole area? So there are major concerns here to be addressed. But the number of units and the number of vehicles and traffic, that is something that would have an impact. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anybody else on the Zoom call?
I'll just
No.
note, duplex is 2 units. And pretty simply, this may get lost in all the other discussion. Essentially, this today, by right, 6 units, under the rezoning, if approved, 9, maybe 10 units. So that's the difference, what it boils down to. Potentially, in theory, there is no proposed development. We don't know the answer related to access at this point and what would be triggered without having some type of proposal.
Duplex is considered 2 units.
That's correct. And the applicant is here if there are questions for that.
Oh, okay. Well, we're still in public comment. Anybody else in the room on the Zoom call? We're good to close public comment? We're going to go ahead and close public comment. The applicant has arrived. You want to say anything, sir? Okay. Okay, what are we thinking? Barbara?
I don't know whether I'm in favor of increasing the number of residents allowable of spacing. Yeah, or 10.
or possibly 10. What are you thinking, Yolanda?
Drive that road every day. The traffic is absolutely horrific. I mean, 10 more cars is 10 more cars, it's 10 more cars, but I think actually probably the floodplain is probably what worries me more. That's gonna be a difficult place to have
And the-
healthy, safe housing. Yeah.
In the buildings.
Wow. Yeah.
Was that I can come in.
That map showing that floodplain was apparently established according to one of the handouts, in 1980, August of 1980, yeah.
Before I was born.
Is that true or no?
2009? Tyler,
100-year
2008?
floodplain?
9?
That's not in the city, that's in the county.
2008 is the FEMA map.
City though.
2008 was the most recent FEMA map, and that's what we're utilizing here.
Okay.
That's the data that's reflected.
In
It may
a-
have changed a little bit since then, but
That's correct.
not as much as since 19.
This map matches our current FEMA maps, which were established in 2008.
Okay.
There is a 1981 USGS map, which is where the blue line streams come from. So I'm not sure if that was part of it.
What do you think, Peter?
I own property past the farm now, Price Road, and I drive it fairly regularly. And I've been up to that mobile home park in the old days. And been on Stanwood Lane. The traffic issue is the big issue, but 3 more homes. You know, I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's already a pain in the ass. Go through there at any, your timing is everything. So, but. To me, 3 more homes is not that big a deal. You can always build 6, go for it. You want to build 9, come up with something interesting. I'd probably go for it.
Okay.
I'm with Peter on this one. On the margin, we're looking at 3 more houses. Theoretically. It doesn't really move the needle. Like you said, traffic is already a pain in the ass. It will be a pain in the ass for another 2 decades.
And you can go out and you can go up the other way with it. Go somewhere else. You don't have to go to that intersection. You'll figure out the least problematic way to, to transport yourself in and out of town. I go multiple ways.
What about you, Andrea?
First, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your experience. I wish we had a say in that, but I know we don't. So I'm with Peter, 3 more homes.
My, gosh. My problem with it is, yeah, the floodplain, the traffic, but the R10, there is no R10 anywhere near this site. Anywhere. The last time this board had a request to go from R15 to R10, property was adjacent to R10,
Yeah, I remember that.
right off of Stony Mountain, North Harbor. So, and if we have these little pockets of, R10 in the middle of R15, and
So what?
it's a lot of administrative work for the city, and it creates these funky looking zoning maps. That's my biggest problem.
The ultimate bottom
I
line.
mean, I could go either way. 3 houses,
The ultimate bottom line is you're gonna put 6 houses on it anyway. So
If that's it.
the zoning is just a picture on the wall, picture on the map. So,
right?
However, in
Technological.
support of what Jim says, if I was a homeowner there and I'd been there for a long time, I like my space and my property, I don't want 10. 6 may be plausible. I mean, I'm playing the devil's advocate.
You already-
Respecting the compatibility with the.
you've already
area.
got that mobile home park sitting there.
Well,
and
that's been there a long time.
Been there for, well, yeah, way too long, but, and it'd be nice to have some nice houses there anyway. 3 more is not gonna make a significant difference.
When did you acquire the property?
Could be more profitable. And the agricultural section of the Johnson Farm off to the left, I mean, that sucks all the water I mean, every bit of water goes down onto that. If you go to Stanwood, up on the far corner of Stanwood, they built 3 houses on the very top, but property rolled down and looked down on the agricultural land below it. That whole piece, that whole upper portion drains into the, that's where they grow after food in the area right there. So, I mean, from a drainage point,
And 10% of that floodplain could be developed, you said.
not big enough to do
Right.
that.
Be too expensive.
I think that's correct. Drake Street would be the other factor in being able to do any development south of Drake Street.
Well, does somebody want to make a motion that,
Can I ask, was it clear cut when you bought it?
You could cut it. Okay. I'll make a motion. So I can read this with my new glasses. We're recommending approval. I move the planning board recommends city council adopt an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Hendersonville, changing the zoning designation subject property PIN number 9568-51-8549 from R15 medium density residential to R10 medium density residential as well. Is that correct? Both of them. Okay. I screwed up before.
they're both between 2 and 8.
Right. Zoning district based on the following. Number one, the petition is found to be consistent with the city of Hendersonville 2030 comprehensive plan based on the information from the staff analysis and the public hearing. And because the medium density neighborhood designation calls for attached, and detached, single-family residential uses as primary land uses, and development guidelines recommend densities at a rate of 2 to 8 units per acre. Our 10 medium density residential zoning district permits single-family and 2-family uses at a maximum of 5.5 units per acre. We find this petition to be reasonable, and this is number 2. We find this petition to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information from the staff analysis and the public hearing, and because the proposed residential zoning district is compatible with the character of the surrounding neighborhood improvement and the adjacent land uses. Petition provides for a modest increase in density without introducing new uses that would be detrimental to or out of character with the surrounding neighborhood. Number 3, the proposed increase in density would provide a public benefit by allowing for additional needed housing stock. Number 4, the proposed increase in density helps to offset limitations to development which are constrained by the presence of a 100-year floodplain on the subject parcel.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
We do.
Do we have a second by Neil? Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify, go ahead, Bob.
Just have one thing.
Sure.
Do you feel, board members, that by changing it and increasing the number, it will be compatible to what's there already?
So we've got,
Is a yes or no?
I think when you talk about compatibility, you talk about neighboring densities. You've got 8.7 units per acre at the mobile home park. You have 5 units per acre at the planned development, Saddlebrook. This would be, this would be 5.5. This would take it to 5.5 instead of 3.75. This change.
So your answer is yes or no?
It's right in there. If you're asking me that question, I'm still not,
I am.
I'm still not in support of the
Okay,
motion.
what do you think?
Density wise, I think it's.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yolanda?
density-wise.
And Saddlebrook is nice. I mean, Saddlebrook is gorgeous. Drive through there next time you're in the neighborhood. They'll fit right in, be an improvement for the whole neighborhood.
Someone has to play the devil.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, opposed, 5, it was 5 to 1. Okay.
Staff will look at changing the description of R10 to medium or density.
Motion passed. Motion passes 5-1. I just can't see putting more asphalt roofs in driveways.
Maybe there'd be metal roofs.
I mean,
Sir, if you wouldn't
you're
mind,
right.
these folks had some concerns. If you want to talk to Mr. Murphy, I'm sure he'd be glad to listen to your concerns, folks. I'm sure he would. Something about the traffic, yeah. Traffic light on Stanwood Lane or at the end of Drake Street.
You need to trip these little wide convenience.
This goes to city council next. This is only a recommend.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yes. It'll be on May
May the 4th, I believe.
when will this be on city council agenda? May the 12th? May 11th? May the 4th. May the 4th, this room,
May the 4th, that's.
5:30. May the 4th, this room, 5:30. 5:45. 5:30 if you want to.
Yeah, you received notice for this one?
Yeah, then you will receive another notice. Do you want to save your,
Yeah, I want to ask her.
did you want to save these for city council meeting? Yeah, because it's,
Was the floodplain in this one?
Cause I go to Camp Toccoa, my son goes to Camp Toccoa, so we pick him up every day, and so we're going right through there. We drive down, state, turn on to Canoga, and it's been.
I mean, people don't necessarily
thank you.
go at the speed that's safe.
Right, well,
They don't have a choice.
Here you go, man.
Well,
Thank you for coming up today.
Like I said, I drive it all the time. Land does, and it's not. You don't speed any of that part of it, anywhere near this project.
Oh, ma'am.
You can't, you just can't. There's no way to do it, even coming down the hill. Nice job on that project.
yes, you did excellent.
it's the,
I'd be
yeah,
curious.
that turn there especially, that, cause it backs way up.
All right, next item on the agenda is a standard rezoning. I think Alex, you're going to take this one? You don't have to run. We're not going anywhere.
Hello.
Yourself. Okay. Yeah, right.
So this, the applicant actually, requested that this rezoning be continued to the May meeting. The May 11th planning board meeting due to after reviewing the application, staff had a conversation with the applicant and this applicant, would like to make some adjustment and bring that back to be heard. So we're asking for this to just be continued. We'll leave it open and just have it continue to the next meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion to continue the
I have it
standard rezoning or? do we-
very brief.
Need a motion?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
move the planning board to continue the application for a standard rezoning as identified in file P23-024-RZ0 to the May 11th planning board meeting.
Zero, it's O. RZO.
We have a second.
Second.
There we go. We have a second, Yolanda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Then we need a motion to adjourn.